Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Corine La Font, your favorite radio host, your only radio host and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know how we do it here on Between the Lines. We're always thankful, or some people would say grateful, either one works. And I am so thankful to be here. It's a beautiful day. I'm seeing the birds flying above me. Well, not where I'm sitting, but I'm seeing my window. So it's a beautiful day out there. And I just want to be thankful for being above ground and for being able to be here hosting my show Between the Lines with another wonderful guest of mine discussing a really topical issue. And you see a lovely gentleman next to me, and his name is showing up, Percy Kennedy. He's making some changes and adjustments. See, he's fixing his shirt and all that, making sure he's looking dapper. So let me tell you what we're talking about today. We're talking about growing up fatherless. Good morning there. Growing up fatherless. It's morning for you, but it's afternoon for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we're talking about growing up fatherless with Percy Kennedy. And Percy Kennedy is the founder of Voices of the Fatherless. His mission is to address the social issues created as a result of fatherlessness. His organization, Voices of the Fatherless, provides a mentoring program called InsideOut Dads for incarcerated dads. He became a single parent as a sophomore in college, attending Lamar University on a football scholarship in his hometown of Beaumont, Texas. A message by Derek Prince on loving your neighbor as yourself, which is also a biblical phrase or term, Percy heard at the age of 26, ignited his passion for serving. The message encourages caring for orphans, widows, the poor, and the oppressed. He knows from personal experience the need for support from family, friends, and the local church. His new book, which I will feature a little bit later in the episode, Voices of the Fatherless, is available for purchase and will be featured, as I said, later in the episode when we showcase his website, voicesofthefatherless.com. So my official welcome to you, Percy Kennedy. It's great to have you on Between the Lines.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Good, good. I hear you playing around with some little devices there and making some little noises. What are you doing?
Hopefully not. I'm not sure exactly what. Hopefully not. Yeah, my undivided attention.
Good. Good. Just a little tip here. Should I get bumped off? Remember, we are using technology, and I have no control over that until I could figure it out. I want you to keep engaging the audience, keep talking, sharing your
Okay.
story, etc., until I come back on. Okay, so don't worry about it. I'll be back with you,
All right.
just in
Sounds
case
fair.
I get bumped off. That's in
Okay.
case I get bumped off. All right.
Yes.
All right. So, people, we're talking about growing up fatherless. And Percy, let me just say to you, growing up fatherless is nothing unknown to a lot of us. You know that, right, Percy? You know that. Growing up fatherless. But what does fatherless mean to you? What would be your definition of fatherless?
That's a great question because fatherless is not necessarily the absence of a father in the home, because you can actually have a father in the home and not have a father actively engaged in your life and being a part of a child's upgrowing. So it is possible to have a situation where you're fatherless even when a father is in the home. So my definition would be a child being raised without a father actively engaged in their life to provide support, encouragement, protection. A father not there to be a moral compass for that child to help lead and guide and direct them, because the child needs the nurturing of a mother and also the guidance and protection and the security that both parents provide. And when a father is absent and not participating in those activities, you have a single mom trying to do the job of both. And ultimately, the child suffers because they're in a state of not having a father and they're fatherless.
And that's why I ask you what's the definition, because you can have a male presence, a father in the house, physically there, but he's not really there. And this is why I wanted you to define it so that we can really put things in context when we're discussing the issue. So you spoke about the moral support and the value that a man, a father should bring in the home. Because a lot of women these days are really taking on the brunt of the responsibility of both the mothers and the fathers. And why is that? Why? I'm the woman here, you're the man. Why are we forced to take on that role?
Well, I think a lot of times when you look at forced to take
Percy,
that
you're
role,
gone. I'm not seeing you. Okay.
uh, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily, I think you have to take on that role, a call to take on that role out of default because you're doing it whether you want to or not. I think one of the areas that I try and stress with the single moms that I interact with through our program, not be able
You're
to
muted.
do
I'm
it.
not hearing you. Okay.
Or am I there?
Sorry, you went out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the areas that's so important for a single mom to understand is that she should not have to feel that she has to do it or to do it on her own, and to really seek and ask for help, and really look at mentors for your young boy or girl, looking at support from Big Brothers, Big Sisters program, getting your child involved in extracurricular activity where you can have a coach maybe stand in the gap to come alongside and help you in that journey. I think is not a sign of weakness to ask for help. And I think I find that a lot of cases that a lot of children, the moms feel that they have to do it all on their own. And that's one of the goals of our organization, is to bring about an awareness and encourage men who are actively engaged in with the life of their children. First of all, there's no perfect father, right? Even if there's a guy actively involved, we all need help and support. And so for that mom is just know that that child needs both. Because in a lot of cases, what I hear, unfortunately, was a single mom saying that I grew up without a father, I'm okay, so my child is good without that dad. And so on the flip side, we have dads who want to be actively involved in the life of their children, but we have moms who have made the decision not to allow their kids to have access to their dad, which is not good. And on the flip side, hello? Okay.
I think are you there, Percy? Yes.
Yes, I'm
I
here.
see
Can you
you
hear
went
me?
out. Your video. Yes, I'm
Okay.
hearing you, but your video went. I'm
Okay.
not
There
seeing
we are.
you.
Okay. So I
Yes.
was just saying that, it's okay to understand that, you need help, and hopefully that you will find that you can reach out to, the children, if they're involved in sports, a coach, reach out to Big Brothers, Big Sisters programs that has a high need for men to be involved. Also, there are other programs and organizations for your kids to be involved in sports where the coaches can stand in the gap. So for the moms that are trying to do it on their own, to know that that child would benefit for having a male actively involved and standing in the gap. But at the end of the day, that child will always have a desire to have a relationship with their father.
Now, I want to go back a bit, Percy, because you're talking about a situation where it already exists like that, where two persons are involved, children come from the union, and either the mother says, I don't want you as a father involved in the children's lives for whatever reason, or the father disappears, or even if he's there, he's totally absent. So you're talking about a situation like that where she can find support or ask for help. I could say the same thing of the man. The man can ask for help. But I want to go back. I want to go back because you see, what is happening, Percy, is that we are talking as if this is something that we have to kind of put a tape on, a little band-aid, which is the seek help on the outside, the Boys and Girls Association, get your children involved in things, to have a male role model out there that can step up as a father figure in their lives. But I want to go back. What is really causing the fatherlessness in the home? What is causing it? What can we do to change that, to change the narrative, to change the paradigm? It is something happening to men that we need to address. Do they need to be prepared more before they become a father? Do they need to do counseling? Like how when you're going to get married, they recommend marriage counseling. Do the women need to do some sort of work on themselves to know not to select certain types of men, or be careful, or don't be with a man out of necessity or need. I need a man, I need a man. And next thing you know, you sleep with them, you end up having children, and then the cycle continues, and you're trying to keep above water, not to swallow any water, not to drown. Why do we have to find ourselves in these situations? Let's go back. What is causing the fatherlessness? Whether a physical fatherlessness, a mental fatherlessness, a spiritual fatherlessness, what is causing it that we persons who are listening to this show, young people, old people, it doesn't matter, church, it doesn't matter who's listening to this, can take something from this and say, look, I am not ready, probably at this point, to be a father. It takes on a lot of responsibility. I'm a woman. I don't want to be taking on that or find myself. What do I need to work on myself to avoid creating and leading into that situation?
Right. Well, the issue of fatherlessness or issue of fatherless is not something that's new, and it's something that goes way back from the creation and history of man. I mean, there's a scripture in the Bible in Psalm 68:5 where God said he would be a father to the fatherless. So we go all the way back to the beginning of man. There's always been a state or conditions that produce the issues of fatherless. Now, in our current situation, children can end up fatherless by, the passing away of a father. A father passed away, now that child is fatherless. It can be a situation where a father is incarcerated. That child is absent of a father, and that child is fatherless. And I think the motivation is not necessarily how we can prevent fatherless, but more so how we can equip ourselves to address the conditions of fatherlessness that exist, because in every one of us there's an area where God has created us to have a need of a mother and a father. So there is no perfect father, first of all, and the need to become equipped and understand that that exists. There is an awareness of it. I think if you go into a relationship where when you are male or female, to have that conversation with your spouse or have that conversation with your significant other, because how they were raised and how they were brought up, they were impacted in some way as it relates to their mother interaction or their father interaction. So we come with imperfect human beings raised by imperfect parents. So we all have a level or some element of fatherlessness in our life. And I think the thing that we can do is equip ourselves and be more aware and give grace and mercy to the individuals that we're in relationship with. But at the end of the day, I think what we really have to understand that there's only one perfect father, and that's God. And to know that we may come a part of any aspect of our life, especially in our relationships and our parenting, that will be the greatest solution. That's not just a band-aid, because he's going to be there to support and encourage us throughout every situation that we're going to face.
I hear you, and I believe that a dual approach or even a multi-prong approach is a great way to handle it. So equipping ourselves is good, but we also need to look back at, not that we want to stay in the past, but we need to look at the trends in order for us to learn to move forward.
Right.
If we don't look at the history and the trends to see where the gaps are, where the mistakes that we're making, we will never learn. And we keep perpetuating it. Now, you mentioned if a father dies. I mean, that is something out of our control. If a father dies, well, obviously the home is fatherless until the woman decides, okay, she prefers to remarry or have somebody else come in the home, or she takes it on herself, like we mentioned, and gets support, whether from the church or community groups or things like that. That is something I think, like I said, we have no control over somebody dying.
Right.
But I'm more specifically concerned about the men who are alive, men who are physically absent, mentally absent,
Yeah.
and they have the control within themselves, including the woman, to be able to say, I am not tolerating that coming from the woman, or the man is saying, I need to improve, as opposed to pointing fingers or ask for help. Just like how you're saying the woman can ask for help, the men can ask for help. Seek it. Be willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't know it all. Help me. Help me. But you see, what I find happening, men have been programmed. I don't know if it's in their DNA, chromosomes, I don't know. But men are being programmed, and the society and socialization plus the media puts men in this space where they are not meant to be vulnerable. They must not show any what you call weakness. When to women, we see it as strength. A man must not cry. A man must not this. A man must not. A man must step up. A man must provide. Yes, that is all true, right? Especially the providing and taking care of the family and leading, because a woman wants to know she can follow this particular man. I mean, and she will follow till the ends of the earth, that her family will follow, because this is the man. Okay? So what I want to go back to, or point out to the listeners as well as you, is also, how can we resolve those issues? Do I need to do work on myself? We all need to work on ourselves. We are not perfect, like you said, but we need to do work. And some of us are not willing, Percy, to admit that there are things that we need to work on. We think we are perfect.
There's a program that we work with the men in the prison, the men outside of the prison as well. You're absolutely right. It requires an inner reflection and to acknowledge the areas of yourself as an individual to heal from the fatherless wounds that exist within yourselves. And one of the first steps towards that healing, we do a program called the Healing of the Father Wound. And the first step is to acknowledge that wound, that it exists. Because what happens is a lot of times people are responding to situations when they're in a relationship, and it really has nothing to do with that individual that they're in a relationship with. So if you know that you have been in a situation where you're wounded by your father, you have to first of all be healed from that wound. Other than, if you don't, you're going to inflict that wound upon the individuals that you're in a relationship with. And at the end of the day, the children will suffer. So the first step into bringing about healing and wholeness from the father wound, or the fatherless wound, is to first of all acknowledge the wound, that it exists. The second step is to own that wound, because many times we're blaming our fathers, we're blaming our mothers, we're blaming the people in our life that hurt us in the past, and they're at fault. And anytime the responsibility or the blame for a wound is on another individual, you're not owning it, and you're requiring another individual to be responsible for your healing, where they're not. You're responsible for your own healing. So once you acknowledge that wound, you own that wound as your own, not necessarily taking responsibility for it, but the next step is forgiveness. And we need to forgive those that have inflicted pain upon us, those that have hurt us, whether it's our mothers, whether it's our fathers. And once we forgive, then we can find healing so that we're not bringing that healing and that pain into the relationships that we're in. Because you're right, we're in a cycle that the fatherless wound has been perpetuated from generation to generation to generation. And like the guys who work with in prison, and a lot of us in our own lives didn't really understand what the father wound meant. But an understanding that that father wound does impact you, it does influence you, how you interact and how you deal with other people, and you're responding to triggers that it has nothing to do with that individual, but it could be something on an event that occurred in your life when you were a child, and you're still bringing that to your new relationship. So you're absolutely right. You have to seek healing. You have to do the work before you're able to totally heal from that and then be equipped to not perpetuate that into your next relationships. And so if a woman understands that her son is in a situation where he doesn't have a father in the home, she can talk to that boy and say, son, we need to have a conversation. I understand that you may be feeling certain ways and that you need to be okay to express your emotions, because we teach our boys that they can't cry. And, you know, we have third, fourth, and fifth graders who I work with who have just broke down in tears, expressing when we talk about the issues of fatherless. I have a host of letters from third, fourth, and fifth graders that just is full of anger, because every time they see another child with their father, it brings about anger and a reminder that they don't have their own dad in their home. So we need to reach our kids. And that's one of the things that we want to do, is give children the opportunity to express themselves. Because right now, over the past few years, I've been dealing with children who have never had the opportunity to express their emotions. But unfortunately, these children are now in grown-up bodies and they're in prison. These are men who were never given the opportunity or never been given the chance to express the emotions, and these emotions come out in a bad way. And we always say this in our group, is that unexpressed emotions will always produce bad behavior. You have a negative emotion, unexpressed, will always come out and express itself in a bad way. And so you mentioned about the book, and our book is the samples of these letters from grown men who are for the first time sharing what it was like for them to grow up without a father, and how that contributed to the action or behavior that they ultimately ended up them in prison, especially like joining a gang. Children join gangs out of necessity, looking for validation, looking for affirmation. And we can break that cycle by doing some preventive maintenance, by engaging in these children before they become adults, and dealing with the issues of fatherlessness before they become imprisoned, because 85% of incarcerated people come from prison, come from a fatherless family.
Wow. It's a domino effect. Do you realize that, Percy? There's a domino effect. You touch one of the little things, everything has a rippling effect. And we need to kind of stop that. We need to reduce it. I know we may not be able to stop it immediately, but we need to have a sort of level of awareness and consciousness, because for us to admit or to accept or to even forgive or to do the healing, we have to be aware that there's a problem before we could even admit, that there is a problem. But if you're walking around feeling hunky-dory, everything is okay, nothing is wrong with me, nobody has been telling me something is wrong, or you're not even aware of the trend and the history of your relationships in the past. You can't keep a relationship. You have children for 3, 4, 5 different women. You can't, you're not even paying attention to that. And the women themselves are encouraging it. We need to take stock. We need to take stock. Because you see, while we as so-called adults, or as you say, in our grown body, because I think we just grow into the bodies, that doesn't make us an adult, it doesn't make us mature. It's impacting the children that come as a result of this, and they're innocent in the whole thing. It's impacting them. So while we are carrying on, in our own little world, having fun, making children all over the place, living a life that is not in keeping with having a healthy, stable home, it's impacting the children.
Yeah, and you know, when you talk about a healthy, stable home, that means different things to different people because what we think we grew up in is normal. And it's so important that if you are in a situation where you can reach out and help a boy or girl who is in a single parent family home to show them a different way, because you know there are opportunities, there are chances where a child will never really see what it's like. And I know we're in the modern day we're in is that you know everything's acceptable, but I believe that there is an ideal way, there is a level of normalcy, or there's no perfectness, but I do believe God has a plan and design, you know, for what a family looks like. You know, a father and a mother raising their child and helping produce heaven at home. You know, one of the areas that you know we encourage guys to do is seek God's word, and there's lots of information in the Bible as it relates to family and you know how we can interact and engage with them and with one another. But at the end of the day, it's important that we help our children and model forgiveness, model, you know, the affirmation, and so they're not seeking it in negative ways as they grow up.
Let me throw a little spanner here. We're coming down to the close of the episode, but I want to throw a little spanner here. I believe in an open discussion, so let me start off by saying that. And what I'm about to ask, I know it might be very sensitive to certain groups in our community. We're talking about the balance of a male and a female, and now we're seeing more and more relationships coming out with females and males, or even triples as they call them. But let's focus on the female and the male. And we're talking about having the balance of both the female and the male for the family and fatherlessness. How do you see fatherlessness, the definition of fatherlessness in a relationship with two females or two males?
Well, you know, from my experience, what I see and I've seen through some of the boys that have come through our program that have been in both of those family situations is that it's confusion for the young boys and young girls that are growing up in those homes. I can think specifically of two teen boys who mothers were actually engaged in a relationship, you know, in with one another. So the two moms were in a relationship, and they both had teenage sons. And at the end of the day, these boys were struggling and suffering to wrap their brain around the two moms being in a relationship with one another and not having a male figure in their life. I do know for a fact that you know the one of the boys' mom actually um, was looking at his behavior and was not understanding what was going on with him, and then not knowing the root cause of that was his confusion internally, being able you know to be able just to even deal with what he was feeling at school, you know, from not having a father actually engage in her life. So I do think it was great that she reached out to us and was able to get him, you know, a male mentor through another program that we partner with to, you know, just do activities with him. I think the struggle will come from the children that grew up in those environments, not having a grasp of understanding that, you know that they have a need for both a mother and a father in their life. Now, I am not going to, uh, you know, I think at the end of the day we have to lead with love. You know, I think when those situations occur, we have man and and woman and woman is not what my belief is, my biblical belief based on God's word. I believe it's the family is a man and a husband and a wife. You know, that's what I believe. But at the end of the day, we still have to lead with love for individuals that are in that relationship situation where it's man and woman and woman. It's not what I believe is in the Bible. It's not what I believe. But we still have to love those families, and we still have to love the children, and we have to always lead with love, never lead with hate, And, I have, situation, I have volunteers that have helped me, that are in same-sex unions. I have volunteers who were once in same-sex union and no longer in that union. They can
Yeah.
attest how they came out of that. So I think at the end of the day, we're called to lead and love, regardless of the situation, and just be able to be an example and model Christ-like love to those individuals in those relationships. And I think it's just it's no different than any other sin. How I see it. I know many will say, "Well, that's not sin; it's a choice." Well, you're right to have your freedom and belief in what you believe, just as I am, and I choose to believe, what I read in God's word.
I am hearing identity crisis, and I've been watching a number of videos online in particular. Even persons who are multi ethnic, multiracial, and none of us are really pure breed, but persons who have black and white parents, black, white, and Japanese mixed parents, and the children don't know where they belong. They feel out of touch. They really don't know where they fit in. So I can only imagine, like in listening to you, with two females or even two males, how a child produced from that, well, not produced from that union, clearly, a child in that situation can have an identity crisis. So
Yeah.
I do understand what you're saying. And like you, it is not my belief. I believe in a male and a female to balance things off as according to biblical standards because it was meant to be that way. That's just my belief until I'm told otherwise or convinced otherwise. But I want to touch though also on, the issues of fatherlessness is not unique to one particular race or ethnicity, but I want to focus on us as Black people. You're a Black man. What are you noticing in terms of the Black community and fatherlessness? We have always said it happens prevalent in the Black community. I don't know. I don't have the statistics to prove that. I know you have done research or you know of research, but whether or not, what can we do in our community to help our men to be better as a father and to not be absent in the home, whether physically, mentally, or otherwise.
Yeah. The issue of fatherlessness, there are statistics out there, and the percentages are slightly higher in the African American community, but it's also high in the Hispanic community. It's also high in the white community. It's less so in the Asian community. And I think just because of the prevalence of divorce that exists across our society, we see fatherlessness or breakup of home being across all ethnicities. But specifically for the African American community, I think that we can encourage the need for families to be engaged with one another, to have come alongside to help and encourage. And like my parents, they helped me with my son. But also too, I think when you look at how we can break that cycle is, a return to getting God involved in our lives more so, and just really seeking His wisdom and direction in our life. But the cycle too is it goes towards our upbringing. We have kids that will grow up in single parent family homes. I still think it's okay for the mom and dad to have communications with them as it relates to a marriage one day, and have those conversations and what it's like when you're going to be married to have children. My situation was, I wanted to be married. And I had a son when I wasn't married, but the thing is, I think it's an ideal situation to where we should be able to present marriage as a good thing. I think, but it requires you to do the work on yourself to prepare you for it. I think in the African American community, we just have to just be able to support and encourage more so for our kids. For the men that are not involved in their children's lives, my thing is just to say this: hey, your kids need you. And a lot of times men will pull away because they can't provide financially. You may not be able to provide money to your children, because whenever a guy can't provide financially for his family, he tends to pull away. Your children need more than your money, and just your time, your presence, just being present, just kind of letting them know that you have their back. Write them a letter, send them a note, but be present. And they need more than just your money. And so I encourage you, if you are not actually engaged in the life of your children, by all means, do whatever is necessary to reach out to them, reach out to the mom. And there are moms out there, if you made the decision to not allow your child to be involved, the dads to be involved in their life. Now, I know there's a situation where there's a risk of injury. I'm not saying if there's abuse that that's acceptable, but if you can make that child aware that their dad does want to be involved in their life and then allow him to be so, to do so, it would definitely make a difference in the life of your child.
Awesome, awesome. I see a comment. I was showcasing a comment from somebody who's listening to us on Twitch, one of the platforms that we're streaming on, Shadow Blazer. So I said hi to Shadow. He says he's so, mannerable. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. So I said good afternoon to him. Welcome and thank you so much. I just want to shout him out here publicly, for being here and for listening. And I hope that the discussion is adding value to you. I want to hop over now to your website, Percy. Let me see if I can do that. And while you're doing so, I want you to consider 2 or 3 tips that you can share with the listening and watching audience for persons who may be facing that right now, or fathers who, let's address the fathers, really, who are, you dealt with incarcerated men, you are dealing with fathers who are probably products of fatherlessness. But I want you to address the fathers right now. So share 3 tips with persons who are fathers. Say something to them that can uplift their spirit, empower them, let them know that there is support. I don't know. I don't want to put the thoughts in your mind or the ideas in your mind. As a man to a man, and as me, listening, what are 3 things that you can share with those men, black men, white men, it doesn't matter what race they are, that may be listening to this, while I share your website?
I think the first thing it would be, as a father, you have tremendous power and influence, and that power and influence never goes away, and that you have the ability to impact the life of your child and impact the life of your community. And so, first of all, to understand that you have influence and that you're needed, and that you have resources, you have what it takes in order to be an influence in your child's life. The second thing I would say is that if you've had a bad relationship with your own father, I would encourage you to reach out to your father and offer forgiveness to him. And if you've never done that, tell your dad you love him, even though he may have never told you that. Be proactive. Be the one to communicate love to your father, and even if he's never given that to you. And third, if you are a father and you have a child and you're not involved in that child's life, be proactive. Reach out to that father. Reach out to your child as a father and let them know you love them. And just communicate your love for that child, and just watch what happens, and the door for a relationship will open. And even if it doesn't, the most important thing that you can do as a father is pray for your children every day and ask God to give you wisdom to help and equip you to be the man that he's called you to do, and to know that God has a purpose and plan for your life, and he wants to use you to influence your children. He wants to use you to influence your family as well as those in your community. And to know that, if you feel that you're ill-equipped, that's a lie from the enemy, because you're well able and you have what it takes to be the man God's called you to be. He's giving you an opportunity to share the name that he has. And I tell men this and incarcerated, think about it. God could identify himself with any name, but he chose to be identified as Father, and you share that same name. So he does have a plan and purpose for your life.
Yeah. I think that final tip is the be all and end all. Seek out God and he is going to guide you. He has the best plan ever. I can tell you, your plan cannot compare to God's plan. And like I say to people, there may be non-believers watching this or listening to this. Whether you believe or not in God or source or spirit or Christ or whatever you may want, or to call him or her or it doesn't mean that he, she, or it doesn't exist. Whether you believe or not, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay, that's just your belief. So I am on your website here now, Percy, and of course, the first thing that showed up was your book for persons to purchase it. Is there anything in particular you would like me to showcase on your website?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would like is there's a way they can contact us for resources that are available. One of the resources that we like to make available is a book called The World Needs a Father, which is a guide to lead men through the process of wholeness. And it's also is a guide or a book that's used for men and women to help in their journey of dealing with the issues of fatherlessness. And so just communicate back with us. We'd love to hear from you. If you're definitely listening in the Houston area, we would love to have you join our team. And you can join the team by becoming a volunteer and going with us into the prison. Of course, we got COVID going on at the moment, so we don't have access to physically go into the prison, but we're going into the prison by sending in resources. And if you feel like you want to support our missions through volunteering, or if you want to make a donation, you can make a donation that will be used towards purchasing materials like the book that's being pictured there, The World Needs a Father. We send this book into the prison and we communicate back and forth with incarcerated dads. And so I would say the join us button, the connect with us button, and the donation button are buttons that you can go on the website, voicesofthefatherless.com. And we'd love for you to join us and help us address the issues and help bring about freedom through Jesus for people that have been impacted by fatherlessness.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I'm looking at some lovely pictures here. You guys seem to be having loads of fun. I don't know. I mean, this seems to be only a thing for men. It's a boys' club. What's going on?
So, the prison that we go into, if you look at this picture here, you can stop there. These guys here are celebrating their completion of our InsideOut Dads program at the Wallace, at the prison in Texas. And so when they graduate, the whole family comes and celebrate, because when one man's life is changed, as you mentioned, there's a domino effect. We impact the mother of the children. They come and they celebrate. The lives of the daughters and the lives of the sons are impacted. And these men that have gone through our program, probably about, I don't know, a couple of dozen of them are home now. And so they are now equipped, and they're going to be going back into the same prison where they came out of, and they're going to be leading other men through the same program that they went through. And so it is definitely want to equip fathers to take the lead, equip men to take the lead, and everybody will benefit from their active engagement in discovering their purpose. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of the guys have discovered their purpose by addressing their own fatherless issues. They've discovered purpose in helping others to do the same.
Wow. I want to switch back here to you and to ask you one question to round this episode off. Let me see if I can get back to you here. So, Percy, what makes you keep going on and on with this journey, with this agenda, with this objective and goal? What's ultimately you want to see? What keeps you going? Why you keep going?
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned in the beginning, it was a message that God spoke to me many years ago called Orphans, Widows, the Poor and the Oppressed by Derek Prince. And that message is actually in this book here. And I keep that with me. It's my motivation, it's my purpose, my passion. And what motivates me is I want to be the man that God created me to be. I want to fulfill his purpose in my life. And ever since then, ever since I discovered that it is to reach out to the fatherless, that has driven me. And it conserves, it's just me wanting to do what God has called me to be, and be the man that God has called me to be, and to be a motivator and to encourage others to get involved and help us break the cycle of fatherlessness, and be able to make a difference in the lives of the people we come in contact with. That's my driving force, is to be better today than I was yesterday, and to leave the places that I visit better than it was when I got there.
That's right. And you're a better person since talking to me in the last 30-something minutes than earlier today, right? Tell me you're a better person right now.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been a pleasure having you on, Percy. I can't imagine working with persons that for me can be a bit intimidating. I want to say frightening, but I think a bit intimidating. But it is also, I think, very enlightening. I don't know. I mean, if I can manage something like that, and I commend you for the work that you're doing. And God selects his people to do certain things. Probably something that I would be assigned to do, you will not be able to do because it's not for you.
Right.
So you have that assignment. That assignment is for you, Percy. And I thank God for you and for the work that you're doing and the movement and the empowerment and inspiration you're providing to other men. Whether white, black, Chinese, it doesn't matter, just men. We need it. The men need to know that there's support. And I want the message to also go out that they have support from us. They have support from me, you know. I don't want them to walk around with the thinking that we are here to bash them. Of course, there are some women who would, and there will be parts of the community who would, but there are people out there who are supporting and who would love to support men. Yeah. So thank you so much for being on Between the Lines. Any final words before you go?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to my team. I have a great team of volunteers and support and leaders and people that have been on board with me throughout the journey. And I can just give you a whole list of people, and they know who they are. My leadership team, the guys that go into the prison, facilitate with what I do. And I mean, it's not just me. And then of course I wanted to say thank you to the men who have gone through the program, that have contributed letters to the book. They're home now, and we're delivering the books to them, and I'm so proud of them. And it's not just a one person that's doing any of the programs or anything that we're doing. So we thank God that's given us an opportunity to be on mission with him, and then also the opportunity to invite other men and women, because we have women volunteers too. That are part of the movement.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I know this is a boys' club thing. I noticed. I know this is a boys' club.
Yeah, we have both. You know, the women really neat. The women that go into the prison, they come and they share the story as a woman, what it was like growing up with their father. And some of them have good stories, and some of them have bad stories. And we tell the men, one day your daughter will share her story about you. Will it be good or bad? So we have men and women volunteers.
Don't you worry. I'm going to come over there. You're in Texas. The next time I'm in Texas, as soon as flights are open, the next time I'm in Texas, I'm coming to visit you and share my own story. It cannot be that the guys are hanging out.
Well, I've never been to Trinidad. I would love to. And I'd love to come to visit.
Well, hey, feel free to come over. Feel free to come over. Because this whole boys club thing, this boys club hanging together cannot be happening without the girls. It just can't. Okay? Well, 2021, we have to be changing that. All right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Percy, for being on Between the Lines.